We had a more test-like one before, so you can consider this to be the first real one. Today we're going to talk a bit about the character creation in our game, Coldage, that we have been working on since November, I imagine, was kind of the conception of organizing around creating a game.
Mm, yeah.
And we spent the first month with idea, what were we actually gonna produce as a game in our company. And we settled after some deliberation on a card game. And we had many ideas about how that could function, but we wanted it to be narrative driven. So there was an element of we have some passage of events and we have some kind of decisions to these events, and that those
Mm,
decisions color what happens in the future. So we made it. We basically thought it out as we have a deck of events, and somehow that event deck gets filled, and we pull one event at a time. And
mm,
when we first began, we had generic responses to these events, like you could act peacefully or aggressively, and those would be kind of standard responses, and different events would take those standard responses differently. At some point, we hit this like perhaps we can, if we're this kind of, we have this kind of dystopian setting, and we have these small groups of people who are desperately trying to survive. So the idea being that perhaps we can take these inhabitants of the settlements with all the difference from our narrative and use them as cards or means to response resources in a sense. And we worked quite a bit with that idea. So we generated
yeah, we
ourselves.
played that time Cultist Simulator.
Yeah, there was a
At
lot
least
there
I
was a lot of
did. Yeah.
inspirations from there for sure.
Mm,
And we made a second deck, a deck where we had all these inhabitants or units in, and we would draw them, and um, we would keep. I don't even recall. Would we keep them on hand if we didn't play them? But we could play them, and we would draw new ones. I think we would keep them on hand. But we very
mhm.
quickly realized that when you have a big deck of things, um, those things don't matter that much to you. And we wanted to create this narrative about the struggle of survival and the preciousness of life in this very harsh environment. And it didn't really feel right that you didn't feel that sensitive to losing your units if you did stupid things with the
Yeah, they felt
events.
like literal cannon fodder. Like you just
Yeah,
throw them out and don't care.
yeah. And we had another problem, which was like we characterized each of the unit with three numbers, three aspects, and you can say that was perhaps a bit simplified, but it was a prototype, and it also meant that
Mm,
the units didn't have that many ways to be different. So every unit that wasn't the thing was basically something you wanted to get out of your deck, so you could draw the good stuff. So it very
mm,
quickly in our test plays that the good strategy was kind of to get rid of all your poor inhabitants, so you could play with the good ones, and that didn't
mm,
really work. Didn't really work with what we wanted to do. So we got rid of the deck, and we said, okay, perhaps that's just 10 units, and you have those units all the time. And instead of drawing new ones, we would kind of exhaust them. So when you use them, there would be some time before you could use them again, and it kind of worked. But it also meant that 10 was still a big number, and the screen was a bit small, and we still wanted the intensity of a small unit. So we reduced from 10 to 8 and from 8 to 5, and suddenly we were the 5 units. And it came pretty naturally that those 5 units they needed to be. Now there were only 5 units. It was a little group of people, and those five desperately needed to be to be central to the narrative. So we went into this. Okay, we need to go deeper. We need to these five characters needs to have the depth that justifies that these are the five characters you're going to be looking at through an entire playthrough. Um, and we basically set out like, well, we have to kind of describe personalities and figure out who they are. And I think we started making one character, an elder woman that was heavily
I think the flow was like we started with Jungian archetypes, personality, like 12, and we like somehow started with the crone type,
Mm.
elder woman.
Yeah, the crone. You're right. We found
Yeah.
the archetypes to say like perhaps this is a good way of doing it because everyone understands archetypes, and then we can always use the archetype as the basis and make them more detailed based on that. But if you understand the archetype, you will very quickly understand who
Mhm.
these people are. So we made the
Like you
crone.
know the person.
Yeah, you know the
Mm.
crone, the elder woman, the witch, the grandmother.
Mm.
And I was very eager to make this character,
Mm.
and
I remember.
I drew inspiration from her name is actually inspired from the Norse mythology Elle, which Thor is tricked into to fighting or dancing with, depending on how you read the story. But he's very angry,
Mm.
and there's this troll, I suppose, or natural force that personified that tricks him into that he wants to fight, and he's the god of
Mm.
strength among other things. So obviously they don't want to fight him, but he,
Yeah.
they trick him into fighting his grandmother. But his grandmother is the personification of age. So of course, if you fight age, you die, and that's what happens to him. He's immortal, so he doesn't die, but he gets defeated.
Also, I think like any sane person, like once in time, like think about it, like what if I fight my grandmother?
Perhaps.
Yeah,
But
it's so natural.
anyway, Thor gets defeated or gives up, or and I was thinking like to have this and this kind of broken dystopian future world, to have this woman that has like this quality in her that just can't be defeated. I thought that was an interesting thing to explore. Um, and I also tried to think like it's that kind of woman. She's a strict elder woman, of course. She's no fool,
Mm.
and she has an incredible ability to survive, and it's probably because of the reality of the world is deadly practical, pragmatic. Um, and I think we got I mean, our artist Emmanuel, he made some amazing drawings of her um,
Mm.
that you can see if you visit our Twitter stream. Um, and she was kind of where we started, and she was pretty detailed, and I think we were kind of struggling. What are the other four like? Because
Mm.
obviously we probably won't have more elder, like very old characters in the group because we already have one, and if we want some dynamic. And then I recall you, Nicola, you came up with this Waterworld reference that we have this.
Not just Waterworld, but that's something I remember at the moment. Like,
Mm,
and I remember like the position of like we have child, which is in have role of Messiah basically in
mm,
that world. We have woman who cares for the child,
mm,
for the girl, and she's like caretaker, and she's like doing everything she can like for to improve to save child. And we have the father figure who is like not interested at the start, but he doing his job basically, and he's like mother using basically the father
mm,
to make better offspring, to like improve child. Like he provides, he teach her how to swim. I somewhere wrote like idea that father can eat children without mother's protection,
mm,
and he's like uh, he leads like most crucial mission on his back, but he's not actual leader,
mm,
and he's like somehow submitted to mother's will. But that was starting point before we made actual character, so he can like have narrative, let's say some kind of freedom that he can leave whenever he want, you know. So he's like in somehow, so the relationship is basically he trying to detach himself as much as he can, and mother trying to like keep him there because for the sake of the children. And
mm.
then like when we had like already like we have father figure, mother figure, it was like okay, we should probably have children. And I remember like Marx brothers
Yeah.
idea that they're like representing like id, ego, and superego. So like we need like characters that like represent id, Freudian id, ego, and superego, and they're like basically children who are. And we also used for them like some Jungian archetypes to make them, you know. So basically we have three characters. We have one jester, one Amazonian warrior slash hero figure, and we have like the wise guy
Hmm.
or guy like in I don't know,
Yeah,
sage basically.
the detached one, right? The one that
Yeah,
doesn't
the
really
touch.
live in the actual world, the one that lives in the
Mm,
ideal world. Yeah, we if we can go a bit into the characters themselves. I don't know if there's something you would like to describe in detail.
not really,
No, I mean
but like,
we have Blackjack, for example. So
mm,
we needed to create this kind of pathological but practically competent father figure, and
mm,
uh,
mm,
just to make it clear, they're not related by blood. It's just
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
a kind of a template to work with. It's just
mm, mm,
abstractly. So we conceive this character who's intensely loyal to the principle of the society they live in, and a good a good soldier basically. But
a good man.
then a good man is a bit much because he's very one-dimensional in that um, pledged to the ideology that they live under, and
Yeah, but
excellence
from
as a
position of
soldier.
ideology,
Yeah, yeah,
from
yeah. You can
ideology, he's a good man. Like
definitely say that.
yeah,
But
he's a needed
also
one.
violent, right? I'm violent
Yeah, yeah.
and stubborn and uncompromising, uncreative. Um, Perhaps except for finding new ways to defeat enemies in combat.
Mm,
But like one dimensional in that way, and also a bit detached. What's the actual purpose of this settlement, other than following the
mm,
principles and waging war on the enemies that will have them not survive. And the counterbalance between Ele and Blackjack, this pathological soldier, would be that they have some kind of understanding, and Ele is kind of
mm,
the spiritual leader, and he's perhaps more than the day-to-day leader, and in a
mm,
sense
mm,
the Ele holds him in check in a sense because
yeah.
his existence or his acceptance into the camp, we imagine that.
Yeah, my thoughts about him was like he's one who's like pretend like position himself as a leader, but he actually don't want to be leader. Like he also wants some kind of you know release from responsibility or things
Yeah,
like that.
he kind of wants the prestige of being a leader, but he's
Mm,
not really ready
exactly.
to carry the burden.
It, I think it's natural in like let's say world when like settlement your society like depends on like strong soldiers
Hmm.
that he be like highly ranked in
Yeah,
society like really valuable person, and he's like probably everybody will enjoy that attention.
yeah,
But yeah, he's someone who like doesn't naturally strive to be a leader. He don't have like those qualities to I don't know help to be interested in other ones. Like he have his simple way of life and thinking, and he don't want that to be disturbed.
hmm. And if we have those two, then we made the three children that you talked about before,
Mm,
and that took longer. I think Blackjack came pretty fast.
yeah.
Um, Finding their names and finding out who were they really. Um, I'm not sure. I think we wrote Adana first, the ego,
Yeah.
the Amazonian warrior. So the new
Mm,
leader, basically the young leader that has yet to
mm,
kind of come into full leadership, and we kind of envisioned that we wanted basically all the characters to have pathologies and things to contribute with. Um,
mm,
and we thought out that perhaps she's so there are slavers in this world. So perhaps she's an escaped slave,
mm,
and she has kind of a broken childhood, a family that she left behind, and so she has a lot of darkness in her past. But she's looking forward in a sense. But she probably also struggles with trusting people, and that's
Mm.
perhaps her challenge. That in order to become the leader that she's meant to become, she has to conquer that. She has to learn to trust other people because she can't lead them if she can't trust them. Um,
Yeah, the technically like the flow of the Amazonian archetype is like she needs to learn to depend on others
mm,
to overcome. Like she's constantly trying to prove herself that she's like worthy or whatever,
mm,
and the flow is there. Like if she's trying to do everything for herself, she's falling.
yeah,
And to be like leader, you need to count other people in.
mm, yeah. So we made her we made her a warrior, not a warrior the same kind of warrior as Blackjack. Blackjack is more like a soldier, traditional, brutish, close combat, um, traditionally trained. Where
Mm-hmm.
she's smaller of stature. Her physique is smaller. She's more agile. She's more using the environment when she fights. She's using a spear instead of an axe that Blackjack uses to give her more reach and to capitalize on her ability to use the environment and keep enemies at bay.
I think in the end we managed somehow to like make Adana to have both worlds like of Hell and Blackjack, like
Mm,
incorporate best of the worlds.
yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
we did talk a lot about like Elle's Elle's constantly trying to preserve life.
mm,
Like that's her like mission in a sense. And I think hers they have similar ideals maybe Adana and Elle, but
yeah.
not in the same way.
No, I think
If you get me.
yeah, I think Ele is perhaps that's also Ele's pathology in a sense, right? Because she's so
Mm-hmm.
practical, and we also baked it in like she's an elder woman, and so in a sense her role in society is also to support. She can't bear children, and she has this kind of obsession with she can't create life, but she can preserve it, and but
Mm-hmm.
that probably goes too far for her. She's probably I mean, if you had like the traditional crone, she's kind of a death figure as well. She does live partially in the next world, but where Ille would be kind of her archetype and fully complete, she would be at peace with death in a sense. It
Mm-hmm.
would be a
Mm-hmm.
natural thing. It's a conclusion of a life. I don't think Ille is like that. Um, I think she goes too far to save people. She's too radical in her pursuance of life, in a sense. And we also talked about that Ayla might have this. I mean, she's a spiritual person. She sees the future when she casts bow, and she's brewing potions and probably making poisons and uh, knows some healing craft and can heal wounded people and that kind of thing. Um, I think I lost what I was supposed to say there, but she's also the person who no I know no she has kind of this messiah complex that she thinks that certain
Yeah,
individuals are super important to the survival of the people and
yeah, yeah,
she might have hidden
yeah,
agendas
yeah.
with that
Mm,
and that in our setting that's probably Adana
mm,
mostly at least that she would be willing to be make unreasonable sacrifices for to progress her
yeah, she
um,
basically make decisions of for the future.
mm, yeah
Like we can say that vision that she have has like eating her personality, like that she putting herself in the service of that vision, and that
mm,
vision is like support future leader who is like I don't know, super leader or whatever.
mm,
So she's on the path like potentially, and every one of them like have potentials. Like Adana was always potential leader, future leader.
mm,
Doesn't mean she's gonna be. And potentially Elle can like eat her children basically in desire to like how you say like to force one forward.
Yeah,
Other one will be neglected.
yeah. There's actually an eatable mother thing there that we
Mm,
haven't really talked that much about, but I see what you mean. But the eatable mother is more concerned about keeping children to be children. I don't think that's what Elle is really doing. Um,
yeah, hmm,
um,
probably, yeah.
uh, um, but if we go a bit on, if we continue a bit, one of the other characters, the next character we got down was Rake,
Mm,
the trickster, and he actually developed in multiple stages because I was kind of we were actually first debating is this a man or a woman even, and we were
mm,
thinking like if we really want to make the archetype and we want to make it a pleasure seeking, um, a pleasure like a radically pleasure seeking person, we were
pure pleasure seeker.
we were thinking that if this is a woman we will lean too much into a prostitute, and we didn't want to uh, go that way with it. So that for me that was the main reason why this has to be a guy.
It's probably we felt more natural to make guy
Mm.
because I don't know.
But it's also
Maybe
some
we see as
it's perhaps also what people can identify with in our society,
mm,
that young pleasure-seeking men that won't take up
yeah,
responsibility for their life.
I didn't realize from the beginning, but I get feel like after all progress of Rake, eventually I saw him as but not that extreme like Alex from the Clockwork Orange,
Yeah.
and he was like that evil guy, evil doing guy, and like he was so joyful doing weird and awful things,
Mm.
and like I saw somehow like Deadpool character basically, and
Mm. Yeah. But I can easily see that.
Mm,
A
mm,
fun reference I figured out is if you saw the penguins from Madagascar, Rico,
mm-hmm. Oh, Rico, yeah,
one of the
yeah.
four penguins is actually also Rake in a sense, right? Because
mm.
he's this like this crazy person. As long as something explodes, he's happy, right?
Yeah,
Um,
he's simple person. Like
yeah,
he's like simple pleasure, like to eat, like to blow stuff away,
um,
scare things, people. Yeah.
yeah. So I see actually a lot of Rake in him as well. But Rake is
Mm,
basically this character, this somewhat young man that is unnaturally strong. For some weird reason,
mm,
he's unnaturally strong. He's also
mm,
unnaturally lucky, and it kind of part of it is because if he wasn't, he would die in this world. Like he just cannot fool around in a dangerous post-apocalyptic world and survive. But there's also an element of mystique about it that I think fits the subconsciousness well.
so basically, rake is a symbol of drives,
Yeah,
and they're like somehow silent, and they're naturally there, and they have stink of like both corruption and innocence.
yeah,
Like you can see him ultra evil and ultra innocent, like, and he's that weird mixture, and you don't know like, do you want to hate him or love him or like ignore him or whatever. Like he's a chaotic force basically.
yeah. I think he was more innocent when we first created him, and I think
Yeah.
as we defined him more, he became more cruel.
Mm-hmm.
More, I mean, some of the things we've been writing about him. Obviously, he loves explosives, and obviously he loves killing things in a spectacular fashion. Like
Mm.
the classical image of Rake is him standing on. We have these zombies called sleepers. You can see one behind me. This is how kind of
Look
we
behind you.
imagine they might look like. But the classical Rake is like him standing on top of some ruined building and throwing rocks at the
Mm.
sleepers that can't reach him, right? For fun and gags. Or finding a way to, in a spectacular fashion, dismember them or blow them up. Or
Mm.
so he would be far more interested in killing them in a spectacular fashion than just being an
Mm.
effective warrior. And obviously, he would,
Big shot.
if he ever gets his hand. We have this anecdote with him finding this submachine gun and a cache of bullets obviously would be a terrific find in this kind of community. And of course,
Mm,
he would use all the bullets, right?
yeah,
Before
just like
anyone
the
ever got hands on the gun, because that's just fun, right? And likewise, food that he
but
finds
also
in the game, he would eat it instead of bringing it home to the camp because he can, right?
uh, I still have I think we still have some kind of struggle with this character because he is a clown jester figure, and I think he's somehow should be, maybe, I don't know, I'm not sure, but I'm seeing like some kind of voice of wisdom, of truth, like the like how you call jester is like the king, crazy person, how you call clown in the
Mm,
kingdom, who's like he was top of crazy person, but like always saying the truth, telling the truth.
yeah,
And like somehow maybe he's a voice of this world, this ultra nihilist world they're living in,
mm,
post-apocalyptic world. Maybe he's not, like, I don't know, but
yeah,
maybe he's represent like this world that have like it's like enjoying to molest people they're living.
yeah. But I mean, it is also a world that requires a lot of violence for survival. So it does
Mm,
make sense, and I also think that I agree with you actually that that the innocence in him is also kind of a how do you maintain your sanity in a world that is as broken and as violent as this one?
mm,
If you have to live there and there's no escape. I mean, if you do not find some impulsive pleasures to pursue, how will you even be sane?
mm,
And I think that's an element of him. Like there's a good defense mechanism in him. Like why wouldn't you eat all the food? I mean, you don't know if you're gonna die tomorrow anyway.
mm.
And so in a way, he's acting rationally in a world that is so unpredictable.
Yeah.
Um, so in a sense, it makes sense. But I also think that there is an undercurrent in him and a cruel undercurrent.
Mhm.
I could
Mm,
easily see if we want to work with the character as the game progresses, which surely we want, um, that he could be more malevolent or he could have experience that would make him turn on his group um,
mm.
for whatever reason, or he would defect. This is actually another interesting aspect of this talk because when we define them, we also define like what's the under which circumstances would they defect? Would they leave the group that they're in? Would they leave this
We'll
protected
have
community?
space for him and Adana to be really close, like,
Mm.
and he's like she's probably the only person that doesn't bother him so much. uh, and she's probably the only person he actually likes. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But like, so it's basically like maybe this is weird connection, but like Superman and Lois Lane. So like in some story arcs in DC, Lois Lane get killed somehow, and then like Superman lose it, and he became like ultra evil. So like the loss of someone you love, or maybe she's, but I'm not sure is that the good decision, but maybe she's the last thing in the world that keeps him sane, or
Mm. Yeah, but I kind of also imagine a bit of like a brother sister relationship where he's kind of like the little brother that everyone doesn't really think he's developing as she should, but Adana has this
mm,
patience with him and like just sitting down next to him and they can have a
yeah,
talk without her asking like, why did you skulk on your guard duty yet again,
yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever it is. Um, but we actually have quite a bit of backstory on Rake and
Mm,
of course it's subject to change, but I kind of imagine that he was actually first of all he was found as a toddler, right? Um, and that on its own right is pretty mysterious in this world because toddlers just don't survive outside of a camp.
mm,
Um, but then that he grows up to be this like
strong man.
hyper powerful character without any seemingly having any diligent physical training or anything like that. And of course he would be cast into this kind of warrior training by the community because that seems to be obvious where he should go. but he's just not suited for it. He's suited for destroying things, but he's just not suited to collaborate. He's not suited
Yeah,
to do
she's
any
not soldier
to
type.
no, he's not suited to do any duties. He's not suited to
Mm,
comply with anyone, almost no matter what they do to him. And that he ends up as an outcast in a sense, but that Elle actually takes him in this community and says,
mm,
well, I'll take him as an apprentice. And obviously she's
mm.
not taking him as an apprentice, but that's the excuse, and that's how she protects him. So he kind of gets.
Maybe she also actually see. Maybe it's not just simple. I don't know, empathy or whatever, pity.
Oh, but I think
Maybe
she sees something in him for sure.
yeah, something great in him. Like if you look for Adana personality, Adana character, she's more stable one character in a sense. Like she will be a good person eventually.
Hmm.
Rake is basically Anakin Skywalker. He's like great force
Yeah,
embodied in one person, and he can be like in the same time like ultra big hero and also ultra very big evil.
yeah.
I don't know.
I mean,
I see the potential.
the main problem with for Rake as a character, or as if he's gonna turn out one way or another, is that he doesn't have any overarching principles. There is just him.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I mean, he needs to apply himself to some vision that he wants to pursue,
Mm,
and of course that can go either way. And if he doesn't, he probably will not turn out well because eventually he will grow old and he'll be resentful
mm,
because he never set a direction. Um, and then there is also we had this kind of mystique. We have these kind of mutant creatures that are somewhat like these children, these human-like creatures we have. Um, and that we had kind of rumors fly that he perhaps he's not even a child. He's not like as the others, since he has this unnatural look, since he has this unnatural um, physique, and that could kind of add to the his level of being an outcast, and that would be a reason why Ella would take him in because kind of they share this mystique in them. Like Ella has this kind of old crone witch mystique in her, and Rake has another kind of
mm,
mystique in him. So there is some kind of bond there. And
mm, mm, yeah.
I actually see Ella and Rake get along in their own way. Like Ella
Mm,
knows that
mm,
she can't really teach him unless he wants to be taught, and Rake knows that he shouldn't bother her too much because then he won't be an apprentice anymore. But obviously he's bothering her. Like another anecdote is that in Ella's like a witch hut or laboratory where she has all her potions and
mm,
ingredients that he would, which would probably be well sorted. He'd probably have tasks in keeping that order, but he would obviously intentionally mess up the order to see what would come out of that and from
mm.
from from Ale and they would have
Not
this
too
kind of
much, but just a
not
little.
too much,
Yeah.
but enough that
Mm.
Ale kind of doesn't forget that she has a trickster as an apprentice.
Yeah,
Um,
trying to make her like feel crazy or
mm,
forgetful, old, things
yeah.
like that.
And
Yeah.
I could see her even appreciating that sometimes, that in a sense it keeps her awake, keeps her focused in a sense.
Mm, mm,
um, yeah, I like Rake actually, but in the last few animations we put on Twitter, I see it's pretty clear that he's certainly not a character you want to be opposed to in a combat. He certainly has the
mm.
benevolence in him, and you're probably not gonna die a good death if he comes out on top either.
Yeah.
So, um, whereas Adana would probably give you
So
a swift death
unpredictable.
by comparison.
Yeah. Yeah, he's so unpredictable in fight in general in life. Like you don't want him for either ally or
Mm.
foe. But he's like
But he's this character you don't even know if you want him as an ally either, because that might actually be just as
exactly. Yeah.
dangerous.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
if we have some of the quotes from him, I was just having fun, or it was just a little bomb,
yeah.
or and you can kind of imagine other soldiers almost getting blown up by his
Mm,
fun. Um, so yeah, for sure. let's talk a bit about Sophronius, the last of the three children, the super ego.
Uber ego. Mm,
Yeah. So Sophronius is this. He's obviously from kind of high society, whatever that might mean in
mm,
this world, but influential father is kind of the idea, and and a scholar, a very accomplished one, a very, but having this flaw that he believes that you can transcend everything through technology. He has this belief that
mm.
he realizes that they're living in the ruins of a great civilization, which is basically our civilization in the far future that broke, and that these people are basically gods, and perhaps they are by their standards, and that by rediscovering their technology, he can be too, or they can, as their community can be too.
He's
Um,
basically his philosophy is opposite of Nietzsche, Uberman. Like,
yeah,
but
he
like
believes
if you're
that
going backwards,
the
yeah,
god is in
regression.
technology, basically, right?
Yeah, 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 and like the old world is better than new one or any possible new one.
Mm. Yeah.
So he believes like they need to go back
Mm.
to succeed or return. Like I don't know, and there I can see there is a comfort in that opinions in
Mm.
that
Especially in
thinking.
this
Like
world.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, when you realize that this world was once a great,
Mm,
prosperous, advanced world, and now it's not, it must be, especially if you're technology oriented, it must be easy to fall for that. But so this guy is a quite skilled researcher and an engineer. I think the big drawback with him is like this belief makes him want not to be practical. I mean,
yeah.
they might find energy sources, generators, weapons, tools, equipment, but he would be unwilling to adapt it to their needs.
He think they should be used for what they meant to be used.
Yeah, he doesn't want to adapt the technology, which would, of
Mm.
course, in their situation, would be the right thing to do because they
Yeah,
don't
but for
have the
him, that's the
infrastructure.
idea of sacrilege,
Yeah,
you know.
and that of course makes him unpopular because obviously he has the competence necessary to be of great value to the community to
Mm,
produce the things they need to survive, but he doesn't want to.
mm,
And the idea is here, like, why would they ever allow that? Well, perhaps because his father was very influential, and it also feeds into this the super ego that he's very conservative in a sense in his way of thinking in
mm.
society, and he's basically a highborn child. But then to
Exactly.
to
Mm,
kind of even it out a bit, we decided, well, obviously his father has to fall from grace, so there's some scandal that we haven't really defined, and his father is banished or executed or something, and then Sophronius, he loses his family's influence, so he kind of falls from grace himself, and
mm,
that puts him under even more pressure because now he's basically a commoner and he has no sway, and the only thing he has to offer is his knowledge, his and skills that he doesn't want to offer because of his
yeah,
his his
he's
religious
definitely like
views. So
he's
he's
pure
he's
duke,
he's very
poor
eager
duke.
to. Sorry, go ahead.
He's basically poor duke,
Yeah,
poor nobleman.
yeah.
Yeah.
But the case is that since he's in that scenario, he's very eager to push this technology forward, and he has this belief that they're almost at the edge. Like it's an avalanche that will be triggered if they can just get this next technological research done or discovery, then we will be there. Everything will unlock from there. So he's very eager to do more research to go out and find more technology, find more clues.
That's his obsession and
Yeah,
ultimately his potential doom.
yeah.
Uh, we were talking about like like we compare L and Sophronius, and maybe in originally we were thinking like to superego child. The Sophronius should be like the most connected with L
Mm.
because in some sense they're maybe similar. I don't know,
They
archetypical watching
they
like the
are.
crone and the sage. Yeah, but like she's like the subconscious world, like she's she drawn power from their world, and he's like consciousness, and like he and potentially can be like ultra rational, but not rational in some pragmatic way, but like driven just by reasons and like how you call it oh yeah uh, I think I lost now.
No, sorry.
No, no problem.
No, but I
But he's like as ultra rational, potential ultra rational. He can be like also ultra evil, because maybe the worst evil is in rationality. Like the all sacrifices are like meaningful
mm,
for the cause, saving roles. So he can, I see, jeopardize people and the mission
mm,
because of his idea
mm,
of the perfect world, and that's the superego. Like
yeah,
that world controls everything in his life. That's the normative he needs to fulfill. Like this is the ideal world.
yeah,
This is something. Everything is meaningless in compare, and everything need to serve in that idea.
mm,
So in some sense, he is like maybe rational person, not pragmatic definitely, but he is also ultra religious person,
mm,
because this religion he found himself, and this is also something I compare with like Gnosticism, early Gnosticism in Christianity. So basically, he feels he has, and that's like flat Earth thing now you have. I think he knows he have secret knowledge. He
mm,
believes that,
mm,
and he is like key to change world. He is a key to make world better, to return to the previous stage, the glorious stage, whatever.
mm,
And he is like in that delusion that he have the truth
mm,
in his pocket, in
yeah,
his palm, and he trying to show people the truth, and they don't see it.
mm,
And this is his interpretation. They're idiots.
yeah, of
Like I
course,
need to like force them to believe, like to show them also, because I think also he need to prove others that he's not like some crazy jerk or whatever.
mm, yeah, or maybe you just want to transcend them.
Maybe that, yeah.
But it is a very deep question. What is the right level of sacrifice for godhood? And that's
Mm,
basically his conundrum, right? And it's
mm,
very easy to get to the conclusion that any sacrifice is the adequate sacrifice for that.
yeah.
And I think that's where he is. We got a
Mm.
question.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Anubiad asks us, which character do you feel closest to?
Oh.
So there are two ways, because I mean, there's the character that I like, and there's the character I identify as.
Yeah.
So so that might not be the same. I really like Elle as a character. She's definitely my favorite. Um, who I identify as, I think that's difficult because they're so archetypical, right? So it would generally be a mix, but I can definitely see elements of Sophronius in the way I think, because I'm very obsessed with the right thing. Certainly also something that comes out in our game development, that there is a right way and a wrong way.
Mm.
Um, I think Rake's laxness or like laziness is also something I identify with. I don't think I'm as pleasure seeking as he is, but perhaps. But somewhere between Sophronius and Rake, I think is where I identify personally.
I think I'm maybe on the same place, but like
Mm.
what I see in Rake, what's appealing to me in Rake, it's like his freedom.
Yeah,
Like don't to give like he don't need to have inhibitions. Like he's, and that's really appealing to me. Like he's like doing what he taught, like
mm.
literally.
Yeah,
If you remember, like the thing we talk about, like Bill Burr
mm.
smashing the cupcakes, you
Yeah.
know,
But
and like you feel
that's
that,
like a
like
Rake moment for Bill Burr.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like he doing that. Like we
Yeah,
don't do that, but
yeah,
he's doing that. He's
yeah,
doing like something like stupid
yeah.
you want to do.
The difference perhaps is that Rake would actually
Mhm.
do it.
Yeah, exactly,
Mm.
exactly. And you always like when you read or somehow are interested in some fictional character. And when he's like personification of like something you want to not want to be, but like imagine yourself like how that gonna looks, but you can't do it. Like it's socially unacceptable. Like you can't be jerk around people. Like it's not good basically, and it's not nice. And and you like start imagining yourself like, what if I do this and that? And then I don't think I will be violent as him, but like the trickster's part is appealing to me. And about Sophronius, I think I don't know.
But when
I
you say this about Rick, that you wouldn't be as violent, we part of me also thinks like, well, perhaps if you were in that
probably
world, because
yeah,
it's like violence is glorified. First of all, it's they probably also don't have any. I mean, he is a pleasure-seeking character, right? And they don't really have good means of entertainment. They're in constant privation,
entertainment.
right?
Yeah.
So like,
Mm,
well, I see why they would tilt towards violence,
mm,
especially if you're given the physique that Rake has, that it's perhaps a lot of the things are relatively safe for him given his unnatural luck and physical prowess.
mm.
Um, so in a sense, it makes sense, and it's also no one cares that he's killing the sleepers, right?
Yeah,
So
definitely. Yeah. He's not encouraged, but like
mm,
he's left alone to do whatever he please.
mm. You were saying something about Sophronius,
Yeah, I'm like seeing myself in him also. Probably parts I don't want to acknowledge.
but that's the
I'm
thing, right?
possessing. Yeah, that's the thing. Uh, but like I like the void between Rake and Sophronius. Like I think they're like having the biggest void
Yeah,
between them. Like
but I mean,
they're like
it's an
totally
it's inherent in them being like id and super ego,
it and
right?
so yeah, yeah, yeah,
Because
and we like
one
hmm
is only living now and only now all the time,
hmm
and the other one is never living now. It's
hmm
always in the future. So obviously their perspective is
past the
just
future, yeah.
incoherent.
Yeah, but
So
but we never thought like if like we have that's one of aspects we never actually looked into it, like what we mentioned now.
mm,
So let's say like if Rake is driven toward the this moment, like he's present person. I'm thinking like maybe the Sophronius is more past person. He's like trying to recall glory's past, and not just about the ancients and old humanity, but also when his father was like on the top.
mm,
So that's part also of his drive to return to the past. Like he was someone. Now he's nobody.
yeah,
He's just like one of the others. And I was thinking like maybe probably Adana is then like good representation of someone who is like lean to the future
yeah, I actually
and
think
like
you're
see
right.
future,
It's
and
wrong to say
she's
it's wrong.
maybe the one who is anxious here.
Mm,
Like she has fears for herself, for the settlement, for everybody around her,
mm,
and she probably seen a lot more than them, like being a slave.
yeah. Yeah, but I definitely see that Adana is kind of a link between the present and a desirable future. But I
Mm,
think you're right when you say that Sophronius isn't really looking to the future. He's looking to a
mm,
future that is the same as the past. So
exactly.
he
Yeah.
is looking to the past. He's just trying to recreate the past and the future.
Mm,
Um, so you're right. Adana is the forward-looking one, the only one,
mm,
really, at least of those three. In a
yeah.
sense, I think Blackjack is also a present-day guy. I mean, he's obviously a simple man in a sense, right? I mean,
Mm,
but he's satisfied with being a simple man in a sense. He's satisfied with a full belly and being drunk, telling war stories, and
but that's
doing what
that's the
needs to
thing.
be
Also,
done.
maybe he through time like also leaning to forward past because he's not young as he was,
Mm,
and he's like recollecting his stories of glorious youth when
mm,
he was like strong and fast and like
mm,
recognized soldier, and now he's getting old and he trying to prove himself and others that he's still on his prime.
mm.
So he also one of the, like we said, like just, and we recognized it's him, like person who's drink and talk about war stories.
Mm.
But also that's something similar to Sophronius, like he trying also to recollect and like to prove himself he's still worthy. Because being a warrior, when you like when you are unable to fight, it's question what's your contribution to the settlement, to
Mm.
the society. And like in like especially in I don't know, in tribes you have old warriors that like the leaders because they have experience of life, of fighting or whatever, hunters though.
Mm.
And I'm not sure does that works in this, in protectors, basically their community.
I mean, the protected community itself, if we can just cover that really fast, is also a very traditionalistic society.
Mm,
We have more society with you're just focusing on the protective for these five characters because that's where they come from. But we have this traditionalism, and I think it's not the same traditionalism that you see in Blackjack and Sophronius because Sophronius is thinking about a past that he never saw. It's
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
before him. It's an ancestor thing.
mm,
Where Blackjack's traditionalism is his own past.
mm,
So I think
mm.
that's perhaps the difference between them.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
because and perhaps that's also why Blackjack is more earthbound than Sophronius because
Mm-hmm,
what
mm-hmm.
what Blackjack is remembering is things that actually happened to him. What
Yeah.
Sophronius is remembering is a fantasy of how it must have been long ago.
Mm, mm.
Um,
A long time ago.
so yeah, that's the five characters: Ele, Blackjack, Rake, Adana, and Sophronius. And these five people, they're in a group together. They send out on a mission from their home camp, their main camp, their settlement. Um, and the game is largely about these five characters, or at least the first part of the game,
Mm,
being able to reach some destination of interest. It's a refinery of sorts, so a place of technology, of resources. You can think of it a bit like the Garden of Eden. And we have some thoughts about why these five. Why would these five characters be in this mission together? Um, the obvious one with Sophronius would be that, well, he's not really needed in the society since he's not really productive in terms of the things that the society needs, or but he does have the skills necessary to guide them to know the technology to. So he's kind of this. You talk about him as the key maker for Matrix.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
this
He's like,
he's this guy that can get them through the technical challenges that they
mm.
will face, and a lot of the
And he's
challenges
also a burden like that. Mm,
the same burden. He
mm,
needs to be
mm,
babysat because he doesn't cannot really take care of himself.
mm,
Um, Adana will be kind of the new leader. She will be eager to go because this might be a better future. Um,
mm.
Ilya, I imagine.
Well,
I'm actually not. Go ahead.
yeah, about Adana, like I compared her with Blackjack, their deal, because I remember like Plato's like only the death scene, the end of the war. So I assume like Blackjack is someone who is like see world as endless conflict.
Mm,
So he knows with his experience that it's constant fight,
mm,
and it lasts for eons. Like, and she's young and she believes in time without fighting,
yeah. Yes,
in
he sees a
peace.
better
And
future.
exactly. She can have ability to see better future. He lost it,
Mm.
and maybe every other lost that. I don't know.
You can actually make the argument that Blackjack wouldn't fit into society if the conflict ended. What would he do
Yes,
then?
that.
Then he would be this like this
Mm,
post-traumatic stress veteran that
mm,
would just be violent and aggressive towards his own.
mm,
Um, so she would obviously push to be part of this group. I think Blackjack is probably there because he is kind of the day-to-day leader. He is the guy that can keep the others safe.
he's
He's the
the field
competent one.
leader. Yeah.
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 Um, And we had some ideas about that. Blackjack had some kind of some leadership aspirations that didn't go right, and his violence towards his own would not sit well with his military leaders as a soldier. So perhaps there is he has his place in society secured by Ille because of her influence. I mean, she's obviously an elder and a respected person in their society.
Also, I
Someone
think
that you
he's the last one who will abandon the mission.
yeah.
He probably never abandoned mission. He sent on the mission, and he gonna finish the mission.
Hmm.
That can be interesting for the future development of the story.
And Ille is kind of the guardrail, right?
Mm,
Because she's the one that makes sure that Blackjack's pathology won't eat the group. But she's a weird character because she's also a very old woman, and why would you
mm.
send a very old woman on this kind of expedition? And then you have Rake. Rake is basically there because, well, he's
As
Ella's
well.
he's Ella's apprentice,
Mm, mm.
and we have some fun pictures of Ella sitting on his his back when
Mm,
they track, and I think we have to explore that
yeah.
some further because that's just too fun to pass up.
Mm,
Um, but she's perhaps also there as kind of a mentor to oversee Adana's growth and to some degree to keep Rake from running off into the wilderness.
yeah.
Um, so it's a very the aim was to make an interesting group with a lot of potential for conflict and intrigue, and I think we have that for sure.
Mm,
Perhaps the problem would be more to argue why is it realistic that this group can even hold out together. Um, but it's gonna be fun to explore. We're focusing more on writing the actual level design, the storyline now, and we're gonna experiment a lot more with their personalities in doing that. So that's actually pretty fun. So I think this is a good time to stop.
yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Thank you for
Mm.
listening, and
Thank you, guys.
hope you want to listen another time when we figure out when we're gonna continue this talk. But have a good day, everyone.